Yesterday was a very strange day, and I have never seen Arteta outers, Arsenal's detractors, and Standards FC so triggered. I have not seen a moment where they were so full of anger over something so small, so minuscule. Ironically, based on their own standards. Hit the like button, people. Make sure you're subscribing. And before you all say nobody was triggered, you may not have been. Take a little look at this. We had a comment come in yesterday when Judge Mo, so Footy Judge Mo, talking on the Arsenal highlight show, said, Mo saying Arsenal fans shouldn't care. What is he talking about? You don't lose the league until it's over. If Arsenal won this game and last week's game, and Liverpool lost to West Ham or Leicester, the gap would have been down to 6 points with 7 games to go, which is a fair argument. If you believe it. The same account after the Nottingham Forest game, congrats to Liverpool. I said 10 games ago, they looked the best team. They did have a wobble, but somehow extended their league. Arsenal for you, bottling it harder. So when the world, forget Arteta inners and outers, forget Arsenal's haters, forget the media, when the world, right down to the most diehard Arsenal fan, conceded the league was over, they just didn't have enough and there was too big a gap to win the league, my man, and he's only an example, my man here, and thousands like him, potentially millions around the world like him, but thousands in the Terrace community, rightfully called out Arsenal the same as we did, condemned their poor transfer windows, and said the league title race is over. By your own logic, my logic, your logic, anyone who said the title race was done. Well, by the way, some of these Arsenal fans said it was done in December, bruv. Once you say the title race is over, there's no way you can win. Liverpool are too good. We are too poor. As soon as that is said, every game is essentially a dead rubber. But suddenly, Arsenal draw games, and normal Arsenal fans, normal rivals, the balanced mainstream media are just like, yeah, they weren't great, but it's a bit of a dead rubber. They're focused on the Champions League, which makes a lot of sense. You get the Arteta outers and Standard FC going mental, losing their minds. No, they have to take it seriously. They have to try and win every game. They might not even get second place now. And the irony within that, for me, personally, is so beautiful. And what I mean by it being so beautiful is Standards FC, for a long time now have claimed that whether you finish second or 17th in the league, it's the same thing. You haven't won the league, so there's no difference. You shouldn't celebrate being in the top 4. It's not a trophy. If you come second, third, or fourth, it's the same as being 17th because you didn't win the league. That has been their mantra. And Arsenal's wing of this really bizarre group of people is now complaining about the possibility of not finishing second. Ironically, after already conceding the title race, moaning about it 2 months later after already saying it can't be won. And if you're not winning it, you're a loser. Conclusion come to. They're outraged over the draw. And what I'm seeing a lot of them talk about, and the media are trying to jump on this as well, and we'll get onto the media in a minute, and blame Arteta for rotating and not taking it seriously enough. Yet have spent the entire season complaining that Arteta doesn't rotate enough. And let's not forget that they've already said they've lost the league. So by their own logic, these are dead rubber games, ideal for rotating players ahead of all the remaining Champions League games that Arsenal are in the exact way that Standard FC have demanded all year. Their argument has been and is likely to be that, no, we need to keep the players sharp and we need to build fitness. But remember, these are the same people who insisted that there was no way that Saka could gain sharpness or regain his fitness this season by being bled back into the team, rotated back into Arsenal's side. And in fact, by doing this, you were risking his long-term health in his career, and he should be rested for the rest of the season. Now they're complaining that he isn't being used enough in the last 2 Premier League games. The truth is, these individuals, whether they're Arsenal fans and Arteta routers, whether they're rivals, but this weird group of bizarre human beings that sit within Standard FC, they're only content when and if they're able to complain. I've just found it hilarious. By the way, people are entitled to their opinions, but the mainstream media feed into this because Sky Sports yesterday are legitimately talking about title races. It's laughable. The title race is over. But I do understand it from the mainstream media's point of view. They've got to sell you their subscriptions. They want you tuning in. They've got advertisers to please. And if people stop watching Premier League games, if they don't try and maximize the drama, it's bad for business. So I do understand why they're still talking about it. But I just find it ironic that everybody wrote Arsenal's league title chances off, and probably rightfully so, after the West Ham defeat and the Forest game. Now suddenly it's a disgrace that Arsenal are not trying to win the league still. It's just very, very strange to me indeed that this has been the approach. I'd love to get your views. I'd love to get your opinions on this. What didn't get enough airtime for me yesterday was this tackle. And I thought about it long and hard. And it isn't just this tackle. We have seen a large number of these slide tackles with a scissor action from behind in the Premier League over the last 2 seasons, and they have incorrectly not been deemed red card offences. And I would love to know the protocol under the law of the game and how the PGMOL views this. This tackle, the fortunate nature here is, as this contact here is happening, and a lot of the weight of Norgard is going through the back of Martinelli. The lucky element is that Martinelli's foot isn't planted on the ground, because this is every bit a potential leg breaker as a lunging 2-footed studs up tackle from the front. There's a reason that tackles from behind my entire life were always deemed red card offences. A big part of that is a player can't actually brace themselves for the impact. When it comes from the front, a player can often get their feet off the ground. They can kind of brace for the impact, if that makes sense. So they're still going to get hurt, but they can at least minimize the pain and the problem. When it's from behind, you don't even know it's coming. You might feel the player running up behind you, but you can't anticipate it. You can't kind of roll with it. It's very, very dangerous indeed. And for me, I just think we need to be consistent with this. We saw a leg breaker by Tarkowski the other day, and on McAllister, rightfully called out. This, strangely though, and I saw Jamie Carragher talk about this, basically saying Mikel Arteta should be more frustrated that his team didn't win the game than that. Talking about they think there's a conspiracy theory against them and his team, and it isn't. I find this a strange thing for Redknapp, to be focused on, because yes, they'll want to have won the game, but Jamie, because I've seen your articles when you said the league title race was over, so you yourself shouldn't even be thinking in those terms. And again, Mikel Arteta did seem quite disappointed to not win the last couple of matches in the press, but he's equally right to call out bad refereeing decisions. The mainstream media in England are pushing this very unbalanced, very deliberate push. And it isn't just towards Arsenal, it's towards all clubs, where their conversations and their analysis has become so binary and polarizing. It's one thing or the other, but they'll focus on one of those elements and they hammer down on it. Arteta can be disappointed at not winning and angry about a tackle on one of his players. You can have both those conversations. The mainstream media are pulling in to this nonsense online, you see, which is, I don't want to hear about a bad refereeing decision. I want to hold my team accountable. But you can hold your team accountable and call out poor refereeing. Equally, call out the idiots that don't want to speak about their team playing poorly and only focus on the referees. Both those groups are literally different cheeks from the same arse. They shouldn't be the standard bearers of footballing conversations. Doesn't even mean they're wrong about the said subject they're talking about, but you can have both at the same time. We've got an example of that coming up later in the show. But yeah, really, really weird for me. And at the same time, it's the same Jamie Carragher that was out there defending Michael Oliver over Lewis Skelly's red card. So when Lewis Skelly is wrongfully sent off, he's defending the referees. When the referee's being called out today, he's saying, no, focus on your team being played. So 1 minute he's defending a decision when it suits his purpose. Now he's saying decisions don't matter, focus on your team. Which is it? Come on now. Like, honestly, the nonsense here is absolutely crazy. But I want to play this clip. This was from NBC. And I just, my initial thought, I have seen it already. We're going to listen to it together. I just think American TV serves up. We see it with CBS for the Champions League. I think it just serves up far better quality analysis. Let's take a little listen.
Chance really to look at Arsenal now that it is virtually, Gary, all said and done in terms of that title race. 10 points now. Liverpool have that game in hand. When you look at them, not just today.
What I will say about this question being posed to Gary is Gary Neville, after the Nottingham Forest game, basically said it was already over. So I would expect to hear him say, look, it's been over now for nearly 2 months. Let's see if he does.
But I'm talking about the season in general now under Mikel Arteta. Have they progressed or regressed?
I mean, that will depend wholly now on the Champions League. If they win the Champions League, then all will be forgiven. But otherwise, their league performances have been a big letdown. I think that if Manchester City were...
See, I don't necessarily think it will. Arsenal fans will celebrate till the cows come home, and rightfully so. But I actually think when the dust settles, the vast majority of Arsenal fans at a balance will still have conversations in the pub, at home, online, in group chats of, we still need to buy and improve and be better in the league. I don't think the poor nature of some of Arsenal's performances this season will be forgotten by Gooners just because they win a Champions League. Although they'll celebrate that it'll be one of the maybe the most historic moment in their club's history. Again, these polarizing, extreme views by Gary Neville are just ridiculous. Like, let's have some balance here.
Weren't going to win the league, which they've done in the last 4 seasons. Arsenal had to be the team that were there waiting. They're not even on the shoulder of Liverpool to put pressure on them in this last few weeks. Liverpool are going to win it at a canter. I think that's a big disappointment. And where Arsenal have been in the last couple of seasons, you felt as though they were a team that were growing in Premier League title races and getting better. So what's happened this season, I think they've gone backwards. They've gone backwards, I think, from the start of the season in terms of their recruitment. They never covered themselves for the likely injury to Havertz, who was their only centre-forward. He didn't really fancy Jesus as a centre-forward. Ødegaard's another big...
See, what I would like there is, well, can you break that down? What do you mean by he didn't fancy him? Give us some insight as opposed to just buzzwords. Didn't fancy him. Okay, why? What do you mean by that? Not, he didn't pick him. Why don't you think you fancied him? What is it about Gabriel Jesus' style of play that doesn't fit with what Arteta is trying to do? Or are you just throwing in that comment to show that I'm not saying evil or good enough? They should have bought more, absolutely, but they did have cover for Kai Havertz, and it was Gabriel Jesus, and he's also out injured. But you're saying that even if Jesus wasn't injured, he wouldn't be playing because Arteta didn't fancy him. I would still be asking Gary to break that down for deeper analysis.
Drop off, I think, for them. I think they've lost Edu off the pitch. They've lost, obviously, their CEO as well, who's obviously now he's going to Tottenham. So I just think there's things at Arsenal that, look, the Champions League is a huge opportunity for them, but the league is your bread and butter. And I think Mikel Arteta was building a squad to win the Premier League title, and this was the season that he really should have been there and been close with Liverpool.
And I think that element is fair. I think they should have had a better season, and transfer windows and performances have let them down, along with injuries and some terrible red card decisions that have gone against them. There's a balance in here. However, I got asked this question, the first super chat of yesterday's show. Do you think Arsenal have regressed? Do you think Arsenal have gone backwards? And I think one of the most important questions, and they didn't ask this here on NBC, but we'll get to I think his name's Monroe that's talking next. What do people mean by gone backwards? When people say regression and gone backwards, I always feel it's somewhat implied that they've gone backwards and they might stay there, as opposed to they've had a poor season, but next year they'll be back. Next year, I think they'll be better. And again, I sometimes feel that and we'll get the balance in a moment in this for a different side of the argument. But when you hear this on Sky, what you often get is just, you get a statement and then it's left very open-ended for interpretation rather than it being kind of narrowed down and specified, if that makes sense.
Liverpool, and he's not, and I think it's a letdown.
Have they gone backwards?
I don't think so. And I hear that, and I agree with quite a bit of that. But I still think they're going to be the second-place team again, third season on the trot. I know you wanted to go over the line. I think the injuries to key players at different parts of the season has to be considered. Has to be considered. And I know, in terms of the recruitment, they've got a strong goalkeeper, they've strengthened defensively, they've strengthened in midfield. And yeah, it's kind of accepted that the front line is the last bit and the most important bit to strengthen. To get Jesus and Havertz out for periods of time, Saka, Odegaard earlier in the season, I find it harder to criticise the team in terms of how they've played this season based on those disappointments. Liverpool have been the only team that have had very few injuries. Everybody else has had injury problems. It makes a difference. Man City, with everybody that they've had out injured. And we can go round the houses and talking about this and that. Injuries make a difference. And I know there's got to be a squad situation, but when you're trying to win the title and the team at the top has got very few injuries and everything's going well for them, and if you've got a few injuries, it's hard to keep up the pace of it. So, listen, they do need another striker. But I wouldn't agree that they've regressed, that they've gone backwards. He's getting closer. It was just a difficult season with injuries.
Look, the injury conversation is such an interesting one because we all as individuals pick and choose when we want it to be an excuse. So Liverpool fans this season have said it's not an excuse, not an excuse, not an excuse. If next season Salah and Van Dijk spend the vast majority of the season out injured, they will use it as an excuse. The mainstream media, like Gary, will not allow Arsenal to use it as an excuse because they should have built their squad better. But at the same time have given Man City leeway this season. Now, you can argue that City have won, because City have won a lot of trophies, that's why they're getting that leeway. But at the same time, are we assessing the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years of a team when doing that? Or are we assessing this individual season? And I think you've got to specify these things. And I like the balanced nature of both these arguments. I agree with a lot. I agree with both parts from both of them. But you can kind of see Gary towards the end there getting almost frustrated. It's like he's not used to being presented with a really balanced view, with good arguments being made, that he can't just say, nah, that's nonsense too. He has to give a response to it. And I think we need more of this on the radio and on television, on English TV. I think it would be so good for our fans, especially the younger supporters coming through, to hear this balance. And we have to start becoming a little bit more consistent. So if this season Arsenal's injuries are not an excuse, the next time a team gets injuries, I don't want to see people change their tune and go, well, there is an excuse for them. You've at least got to nail your flag to the mast on something like that, rather than basing it on the team that you like or the team that you hate. But I'd love to get your views and opinions on that, people, in the comment section below. A lot of Arsenal fans online going at Gary Neville for this. But of course, I want your opinion. The last thing I wanted to share, and as I said at the top of this video, it was a weird day yesterday. I didn't expect to see any of the outrage that we've come across. Standard FC going mad because they'd conceded the league. I didn't expect to see some of our members of the Football Terrace community changing their tune a month later. Which comment is the lie? Yesterday's or the one from a month ago? Was the league not over? Were you lying about it? I don't understand. The media still talking about title races when they themselves said it was over 2 months ago. This may be being the funniest one, though. This may be being the funniest one. This gentleman here, Rob, calling out Declan Rice, saying he is sort of the professional version of Fogden, saying that he's cringe. And this is because we can't show the footage because of the Sky have copyright on this. But it's Declan Rice practicing long-range shots before the game. And the Sky cameras were recording him. And I saw this was one of a litany of tweets ripping into him about doing this. And what I thought was really interesting is, do you think Declan Rice has set that up? Or do you actually think this is Sky's cameraman and the director saying, right, let's go and film him taking long shots? The fact that Declan Rice is being criticised for Sky Sports filming him practicing long shots, which I bet he does every single game, is the epitome of this obsession, this almost illness you see people have. And I do think, by the way, when you have like a compulsive obsession, you're not well. You are not well if you see that from Sky and go, Declan Rice is a prick. Declan Rice is cringe. Declan Rice is... If that's your gut reaction, you've got to touch some grass. You've got to breathe. You've got to put the phone down and go out. I think you've got to take a step away from football. You're not in a good place. How are you blaming him? It's very, very strange. Sky literally film the teams warming up every game. No one ever says it's weird until yesterday. Listen, as ever, I'd love to get your views. I'd love to get your opinions on this. We're back later. A big match reaction to Chelsea's all-important game, chasing down a Champions League position. Newcastle versus Manchester United later on today as well. My boys are back in action. We haven't scored at Newcastle since 2021. I'm not looking forward to this one at all. But we're back for the full fan highlight shows later today. So I hope to see you all there, especially all the people that have moaned this is an Arsenal video. I expect to see you back on the videos that are not about Arsenal. But I doubt we will. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all soon.